And there is stuff that's on this board that still sits in my Kanban list at home, never done. Because it just never got important enough to do. Is that bad? One of the focuses, or the focus of personal Kanban, Jim Benson talks a lot about effectiveness. Now, you'll hear your managers talk a lot about what? Productivity, and productivity's friend, which is what? Efficiency. I heard somebody say productivity and efficiency. So let me talk to you about why effectiveness is so much more important and why Kanban helps you become more effective. First of all, productivity is about getting a lot of work done. Right? Kanban helps us by limiting WIP to be more productive. And it can reduce our context switching. But the problem with productivity is, if you're getting a lot of work done but you're not going anywhere, it's not very helpful, right? How do you know you're working on the right stuff? So let's talk about effectiveness. We want to be effective. I'm sorry, let's talk about efficiency. We want to be efficient, right? We also want to be effective. We'll get to that. So efficiency means we're doing our work easier. It's easier to get our job done. Does that make sense? Everybody agree with that? Everybody disagree with that? So Kanban can help us eliminate wasteful activities and be more efficient. But again, the problem with efficiency is unless we know we're going in the right direction, it's not going to help us to be more efficient. Has anybody more efficiently got the wrong work done before? I can guarantee you my wife would answer yes to that question. So why effectiveness? When you look at the Kanban board, the way it lays out, it helps us to visualize our work and prioritize it. Helps us check on the status. But it gets at something that I mentioned a minute ago, which is we're focused not only on the work that we're getting done, but also on the work that we aren't getting done. Because the only way to be more effective is to make sure you're not wasting your time, right? You're not working on the wrong things. Kanban helps us feel joy about both what we have and have not done. And all we need to do is focus on what? Two things. Haley, two things. Focus on
visibility,
visual. I heard kind of somebody visualize your work and
working with
it. Thank you. I'm going to hammer those home, by the way. If you have a copy. So one of the things that Kanban espouses is continuous improvement, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Many of you have some experience with this already. Breaking down tasks can reveal the real effort required for seemingly simple things. We want to make sure that we're looking at the completed work and making sure it's the work that needs to be completed. This is kind of a retrospective process if you've been through one of those before. But it takes some discipline as you go through your Kanban every week, because discipline, Kanban won't work without, there's no magic switch. You got to be disciplined enough to do the Kanban. So you can go through on a regular basis and think about what's working and what isn't working. Reviewing completed work for patterns to reduce risk and learn how much effort does a task require. I painted a room. My wife told me it would take 4 hours. It took a little bit longer than that. So the next time she tells me, hey, I need you to paint a room, I'm going to take you a day, I can say, that's not what happened last time. You don't know that unless you're tracking it and you know how long it took. Continuous improvement. One of Kanban's guiding principles is pull versus push. Pull versus push. This is the idea that we just went through, right? I would like you to take in the final exercise, I would like you to push a marble into the next cup until the marble in that cup is removed, right? What's the difference between pull and push? Does anybody know? Can work still stack up in between teams if they're pulling it versus pushing it? Sure. Sure it can. But there's a mindset here to be had. It's really, really important, because if you're at your desk and somebody walks over with a stack of files and says, here's your work, how does that feel? Stack of work. Somebody just dumped on your desk. How does that feel? Overwhelming. That's a great word for it. I was going to say terrible, but you know. Now, if somebody takes that same set of work and they set it on the side of their desk and they say, "Hey, when you're ready, come grab this." It's a totally different mindset, right? It doesn't feel quite as overwhelming. You get to choose where your work is going to go next, based on priorities, based on statuses. Okay? So, let me just go over, just as we finish up here, some lessons we learned as a team as we went through this exercise. Went through the 6 weeks of personal Kanban. First of all, as you can imagine, my big poster board is really hard to take to all my meetings. So I didn't fold it up and try to stick it in my pocket. There were a couple of ways that we could deal with personal Kanban. We could one of the ways that Book suggested was to take like a legal size sheet of paper and divide it into the columns that you needed, and then use small sticky notes. Fold that thing up, it fits right into a notebook or something like that. But to be honest with you, most of the team members, they just went online. So there's some products that you can use. We use Kanban Flow, I think is the one that my team uses. There's others. In fact, in Office 365, there's a thing called Planner. It's a common product too. So that's the way we did it. Having it on your phone. But I will say this, if you go that route, the problem is, once they're in line, they become less visible. So how do you make them more visible? The way we agreed to do that on our team was to make that the home page for our browser. So every time you launch a browser, boom, Kanban. Ain't nobody got time for that. Who's got time to organize? God. Well, as you can see, it saves time over the long run, but it does take discipline, there's no doubt. You've got to make the time to organize. I struggle with this at home, really. It's hard to find that time. And it's hard to get my kids to tell me what their schedule is going to be for the week. It's hard to get my wife to tell me what her schedule is going to be for the week. So, organizing is difficult. I don't control my whip. Does anybody have people who, you try to limit your lip and people say, no, you've got to work on this now? Has anybody ever had a project dumped on them and draw focus? We can't control that sometimes, right? If my home Kanban board lists grocery shopping, laundry, and kids to practice, and I have a pipe burst in my bathroom, should I say, it's not on my whip right now, I can't work on it? No, you got to jump on it. That's going to happen to you in work too. It's going to happen to you in other aspects of your life. Control what you can control. Control what you can control. Let the other stuff work itself out. But oftentimes, I'll warn you, you have more control over what you work on than you think you do. Push back. And our team, the shared systems team, we actually started just asking people what the priority on there is. When do you need this by? That's all it took. Instead of jumping on it and working everything right away, when do you need this by? Oh, next week? Great. That gave us the space to work on those important things right now. All right. I'm about out of time, and I'm about finished. Two most important things I want you to take away from this are loud.
Visualize your work.
Thank you. Progress. Thank you. Guys, we apply this to the shared systems team over here, to our queue, our support ticket queue. We didn't get it more complicated than this. All we did was say, limit our work in progress, visualize our work, limit our work in progress. And guess what? It's made huge improvements for our team. Did it result in this pretty Kanban board that we review every day? No, it was a little bit messy. But you can do this. If you don't think you can, come talk to me and we'll talk about it, all right? So links here, go out and get the presentation when they get online and they send them around. Because I know you guys aren't going to write this down furiously. If you want it right now, come get me and I'll show it to you. Other than that, questions? Oh, fill out the survey, please. Any feedback? Questions? Right?
Just out of curiosity, how do you visualize priority? Like, do you use different colors?
Yeah, colors is one way to do that for sure. Yeah, the way I do it for my personal Kanban is I constantly shift the sticky notes around so that, or whatever it is, the cards around, so that I start with the things that are most important. And frankly, after the top 3, it doesn't really matter. Other questions? Yep.
I'm actually using Trello for Kanban, and I started to struggle with being able to see everything as a list got really long, and so then I started making it just columns, so I look at do next, do education, do
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's just add and throw it. Do you have any advice or recommend?
That's a really good way. In fact, one of the things we didn't really talk about was on my personal Kanban board, I have not 3 columns to do, doing done, but I have 5. One is to do, the other is do today. The second is doing, the third is blocked, because if I ask for a quote from somebody on a remodel, I'm going to be waiting on blocked. Set a due date on your block stuff, by the way, don't let it just sit there indefinitely, and then it's going to call it. So yeah, that's how, and you can strip that out. Some people do, someday, they call it cooler, someday to do today, this week, today. I'm out of time. But come grab me if you got any more questions, and I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Be back at 2:30 then for the next session.